few people you meet stay with you years later. But after crossing paths with Adrian Carroll at Creative Boom's 10th anniversary, 6 years ago now, I knew he'd be one of those rare few. There's just something about Adrian, a sharp wit, a warm presence, and a clarity of thought that makes an impression. It's that same quality, call it magnetism, call it integrity, that's helped him not just survive, but thrive through 26 years of constant change in the creative industry. Adrian is one of the founders of D8, a creative studio that's grown from humble beginnings to 4 locations around the world and a team approaching 85. Their unofficial slogan, without a slogan since 1999. That tells you everything you need to know. Thoughtful, unconventional, and quietly confident. But let's face it, not many businesses last that long, not in the creative industries, let alone come out stronger. Adrian's career has spanned the rise of the internet, the global financial crash, the explosion and possible implosion of social media, a global pandemic, and now the era of AI. Through it all, he's remained curious, open, and quietly optimistic. In this episode, we explore what it takes to stay relevant and inspired across decades of upheaval, from embracing new tools to trusting your gut, from riding the waves to knowing when to pivot. We'll talk about resilience, reinvention, and why your best work might still be ahead of you if you're brave enough to welcome change with open arms. This season of the Creative Boom podcast is proudly sponsored by the School of Communication Arts, the most awarded ad school in the world. And now they've launched something truly exciting, SCA Online Portfolio. It's a new, fully online course designed to make creative education more inclusive, accessible, and flexible. Whether you're just starting out or switching careers, you'll learn how to build a jaw-dropping portfolio that opens doors, all guided by award-winning mentors from the creative industries. You'll get real briefs, live feedback, and support from a community that genuinely wants to see you thrive. And the best part, you can do it all remotely, at your own pace, from anywhere in the world. So if you've been dreaming of breaking into advertising or design, but didn't know where to start, this is your moment. Check out SCA Online Portfolio now at schoolcommunicationarts.com. And guess what? We're offering a £500 discount to our Creative Boom listeners. Just use the code BOOM500 at checkout. We are talking this week about adapting and thriving. Over 26 years of change in the creative industry. I mean, I wish I didn't know what that looked like, Adrian. Because that means I've been doing this for as long as you. But I can totally, I'm really looking forward to this chat because you and I have been through quite a lot, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, this is what 26 years in the creative industries looked like. I think I looked a lot younger when I started out. I had hair for a start, so that's one thing that's changed over the years. Yeah, when we set up, the internet was just getting going. It was. I think our first website was D8. Our first email address was d8web@aol.com.
Dear me.
And you used to dial up like once a day to see if you had got an email, and it was like an occasional thing. And then obviously there's been massive change since then, but it's all good. I mean, I think it's been 26 years of, I think it's been a lot of fun, and I think that what we do now is better than it was when we started. So that's got to be a good thing,
I think anybody who's been doing this for as long as we have clearly thrives on change and enjoys the challenge of adapting and moving with the times. And my God, we've had to pull up our socks, haven't we?
Yeah, there's certainly been some moments. I mean, I know that when we spoke about it previously, there was, we mentioned the financial collapse, and then there was COVID, and there's been all sorts of other things as well. I think it would be nice if we could get to a point where, the world, we just had a couple of quiet years, but I don't know that that's ever going to happen. It would be nice if things could just, kind of calm down a bit. I remember. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the year it was like Prince and George Michael and David Bowie all died in quick succession, and everyone was like, that was terrible. But the next year was bound to be better. And then I think it was COVID the year after that, and it was just it's just been one thing after another. But yeah, I think there's always opportunities, and I think there's always good things. So you've just got to keep going, really, haven't you?
I think it might be wishful thinking on our part to hope that there's going to be a quiet period, but it's all I hear from other creatives as well, Adrian. It's when are we going to get just a moment? When are we going to have a break from all the madness? But yeah, it's life, isn't it?
I think yes, but I think also, I think when you get used to kind of running at a certain pace and working at a certain pace, I think when you get, I quite like a quiet day because it means I can tidy up all sorts of loose ends and things like that. But at the same time, if I get 2 quiet days in a row, I start to panic, because I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? Why haven't I got any work to do? And it always kicks back in. But so I think we just get used to it, and life's just a bit of an assault course at times.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty dull if it wasn't eventful, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It keeps it interesting. It does keep it interesting,
So what was the kind of starting point for D8? Because it's now, it's been running all that time. It's 26 years old. Good grief. Yeah,
26. So what happened was I left college and I went to work in a studio. I started off as a junior designer, and then I kind of worked up to be a senior designer there. I think I was there for maybe 4 or 5 years. I started, I think, when I was 19, and by the time I was 24, I think I was probably one of the most senior designers in that studio. They had brought in a business graduate, a guy to bring in the work, Jim, who's now my business partner. It got to the point where he was bringing in work and I was doing the work, and I can't remember. I think it was like there's a project we did in Glasgow for a long time called the West End Festival, and he brought that in, and then I had worked on it. We went to all the meetings. He organised all the print for it because it was all print back then, and I think one of us said after one of the meetings that we could do this for ourselves, and I think that it was probably me that said it, because I think what I didn't realise was that once he gets an idea in his head, he'll go from A to B in the shortest possible kind of time and distance. He'll take the most direct route to get there. So next thing you know, we were at Small Business Gateway or something like that, looking for funding, and then we set up a studio in 1999, and it was. I think it was just really nice, doing work for ourselves. Wasn't always the best kind of quality work in the world. We had to kind of build up. We used to do things like flyers for Global Video and things like that. Like at video shops. So there's another thing that's changed. You used to go to video shops to rent videos. So we started off doing stuff like that, and it's just really been a case of, kind of building up from there. But what I would say is that as much as I get to talk about the work that we do, like D8 is a big team of incredibly talented people, and I think we've always managed to kind of surround ourselves with really good people, and it's all credit to them that, the work that we do and how we've built the business and stuff like that. So, I can't mention everybody, although I'll probably mention a few people during this conversation, but no, they're amazing. We've got a fantastic team, they're brilliant, all credit to them.
I'm just looking at 1999 because it doesn't feel like a long time ago, but it
was 10 minutes ago.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just looking, like, it was the construction of the London Eye that wasn't even up. Millennium Dome. God, what else happened? Napster revolutionises music. Do you remember Napster?
Yeah. All these things that are kind of going.
The Euro came in. Good. God, I mean, I sound like an old woman. Good grief!
I think it was. I do think. I mean, the 90s was good fun.
Oh, it was, yeah.
And I think we've been kind of fortunate to, if you go through your kind of teens and 20s in the 90s, then that was a pretty good era of doing all that stuff. And talk about change. Obviously, there wasn't any social media back then.
No.
So. You could get away with a hell of a lot more.
You could.
There's no record of it apart from the people that were there that remember you embarrassing yourself.
Well,
at the time,
this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, I do so often wonder if it's nostalgia and us looking back with rose-tinted glasses, but actually it was a very optimistic time and we did have a lot of freedom. And I never got, because I don't have children myself, so I never understood why the kids today, I mean, it's great that they don't, but they don't do what we did, which was, be very experimental, shall we say, and enjoy going to parks from 15 years old onwards and going and getting older kids to buy us alcohol and just absolutely. But they are more sensible because it could be recorded. And yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? We had so much freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but it's one of these things. Like I've got, so I've got a 21-year-old son now, and I've got a 16-year-old son, and I'm sure if you ask them, they would think that their time of growing up is the best time, because they're in it, and that's when they're having all the fun and all the rest of it. Although I know, like my older son, he's studying music just now. He's in a band.
Wow!
And most of the music that he listens to is, from the 70s kind of, and then club music from the kind of 90s, and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely some stuff that that's a lot of stuff that stood the test of time.
Yeah, I have a friend who's got some children, and he said that he has been slowly introducing them to lots of 80s movies, like The Goonies and Back to the Future and all this kind of stuff, maybe even E.T. And the kid was like, oh, your childhood looked really amazing. I want to grow up in that era. It does look so idyllic, doesn't it, when you think of just a bunch of kids hanging about on bikes and climbing trees. And that's kind of what we did, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you hear about stuff like that, like, you used to just, it's a bit of a kind of cliche now where it's like, we used to go out in the morning and then disappear and you would come home at dinner time. But that is kind of what happened, And I don't know if that maybe, like, I don't know, I mean, I think you can only speak from your own kind of lived experience, but I don't know if that kind of sense of freedom maybe does make you a bit more opportunistic, and where you think, well, that sense of it will be fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I'm trying to understand what we share in common in the sense that we're not risk averse. We've taken lots of risks. We've thrown ourselves in at the deep end, and just what's the worst that can happen? Does that come from having a childhood where our parents, just sent us off in the morning, like you say, and come back for dinner?
It might be something to do with it. I think it's just you get, like whether it's kind of life or whether it's, through the work in the studio, you get opportunities and you make decisions as to whether you're going to kind of, give it a go or not. And I think most of the time, if we feel we've got a reasonable, we wouldn't do anything that we thought we just can't do this, or something ridiculous. But anything we've ever been given the opportunity to do that we think we can make a reasonable go of, if we want to do it, then by and large we've given it a go. And usually it's turned out to be fine,
Yeah.
I think I've always kind of got that it will be fine, kind of mentality, it will be fine, we'll be all right.
Adrian, you're very well loved across the creative industry, and you're so laid back, you're practically horizontal. But I can imagine, there's this calm, you're like the calm, but inside there's all these kind of worries, because you've obviously grown this amazing business. It's so brilliant, the work that you're putting out there. But to have all those salaries and all those people and outgoings.
I don't really look at the money side of it. That's like Jim that takes care of that. So that's probably why I don't think too much about that sort of stuff. I'm more thinking about, I've always thought if I focus on the quality work that we produce, and, then everything else will kind of take care of itself. So that's whether it's, looking for people to join the studio or kind of helping the people in the studio that are working on projects or whatever. I think as long as, on the design side, we keep the output high, then that's us doing our bit. And then we've got a team of, account managers and people that bring in work and, people that do all sorts of different things within the business, and they're great at what they do. And then I think it's really just, it's just a case of you try and find, when we set up, we were given a bit of advice, which was surround yourself with good people and treat them well, and that's always stuck with me. And that's kind of what we've always tried to do, and I think, but what I would say is when we were given that advice, I always thought that was just about, people that you might work with, colleagues that you might, people that might come and join the business. But actually it's clients, it's suppliers, it's, the whole thing is just based on human relationships. And, if you can build good, strong, long-term relationships with people, then I think you're over 50% of the way there,
Business is about people.
100%, always, and I think design's one of these funny things that because there are, you get designers that write books, and there's books about designers, and people, designers appear on podcasts, right? It's the first podcast I've ever been on. But
wow, is it? Oh, I'm honoured.
Yeah,
but we're hardly a podcast. We're more like a friendly chat, isn't it? We're nice and chilled over at Creative Boom.
But no, I think because it's almost like some designers are afforded celebrity status, and I don't think I own those, I have to say. But at the end of the day, we're just people doing a job for other people. And I've given this talk at colleges and universities, and I've kind of probably shattered a few people's, students' illusions about working in the design world. But I always say to people, look, it's just about doing the basics well. If you can deliver consistently, understand the challenges that your clients face, that they face externally and internally within their business, then, you're there to kind of make their life easier ultimately, And I think it's kind of that thing like, if you've got a leak in the house, and you get the phone number of a plumber off somebody recommends a plumber, because you look for a number online, and there's so many of them, you don't know who to go to. So a friend gives you a number, you get that person out, and if they do a good job, clean up after themselves, charge a fair price, turn up when they're meant to turn up, and once they've gone, you will go back to that person again, and if anyone asks you for a recommendation, you'll give them that number, and that's, I know design's meant to be a bit fancier, but those are kind of the basics, That's maybe the first time anyone's likened the design industry to plumbing on.
But it's true, though. I think, we talk rather grimly about all the challenges we've faced over the last near 3 decades. Good grief. Adrian, I do not look old enough to have endured such a well, maybe I do. Maybe I'm deluded.
I certainly do.
I just don't look in the mirror anymore. I think the the internet, the rise of the internet in the 2000s, that gave us a wealth of opportunities. It leveled the playing field like never before. You could start a business. I remember my dad trying to start a business in the 80s and it didn't quite work out for him. Very tough back then. And then suddenly you had this amazing platform to basically put your work out there, connect with people. Then social media came along back when it was good and valuable. And that really helped. But then a consequence of that is the opportunity for self-promotion, personal branding, finding your voice, all of this kind of stuff. And that's a different route that some people take, and it works really well for them up to a point. But I always say some of the best creative studios and designers I know are ones you've never heard about. Not that I'm saying you haven't heard about D8, but you know what I mean. It's understanding that actually, if you just get those basics right, do a good job, run a healthy business, and have, work really hard on keeping existing clients happy, because existing clients are easier to keep than finding new ones, then you're just going to it's just going to be a perfect cog spinning round for as long as you want.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think we're fortunate in that we have a lot of long-term client relationships, and we've had clients that have moved to work at other brands, and then they've taken us with them. And so you end up working with the brand that you worked with previously and the new brand that they're at. That's happened quite a lot for us. And then there are other brands that you work with that the work that you do for them will, get you more work in that sector. So media and kind of drinks are huge for us. And that's come from, doing a good job for certain clients, and then your work gets seen by other people. I mean, I think the personal branding, I mean, I don't know that, can you hear my dog barking?
Who's that? Is that the cute little furry ginger thing?
I'm hoping he's going to stop barking, but...
Oh, he's fine.
Is he all right?
Yeah, he's absolutely gorgeous. You might have to introduce him and the spark.
Well, I'll go and get him after this. Hopefully he'll stop barking. But what were we talking about there? Yeah, personal brand. I mean, I think you can... I think if you're on social media, you've got a personal brand, whether you're trying to curate one or not, because it's just, it's who you are and it's how you communicate. I think, I've never tried to build a personal brand. I always just, if I'm putting stuff out there, it's just the work, the work of the studio. I think my own Instagram feed, which is locked now, is just like a visual diary for me of places I've been and, family holidays and all that sort of stuff.
We follow you for the dog. We just want to see pictures of the dog.
And the dog as well. But I think, I think you just, I see all that stuff like, the work, social media feeds and the website, it's almost like a shop window. It's just like keeping it tidy, keeping it up to date. We try and share one piece of work a week, and then some of that stuff's big and some of that stuff's small, but it's just really about, kind of being regular with it. But it's more, I mean, whether the engagement's high on certain posts or not, it's really, I've found it to be useful when you are at the point of starting to work with a new client. I will commonly hear, we had a look at your Instagram feed, or we were on your website, or, we saw what you said on LinkedIn or whatever. But a lot of the time, the people see stuff and they'll mention it, but they haven't engaged with it or liked it or anything like that. So whether or not you're getting high engagement or whatever, I think just keeping it tidy and keeping it up to date is important, But I do also wonder if we're kind of past the sort of golden age of social media, if you know what I mean, because it used to be like Instagram, for instance. You used to, when it kicked off, it was brilliant. It was
great.
You would just put your stuff on there, and at that point, it was easier to build a kind of a sort of community of people that you followed, and like I kind of got to see the work of like designers in Australia and things like that. Some of whom I know to talk to and things like that now. And at that point, it was much more of a natural conversation, whereas now, if you go on there, it's like you get bombarded with adverts from people like business coaches and, all sorts of stuff that you're not interested in, you're like, oh, I'm just going to show me some stuff that I like, and no matter how many times you click the I'm not interested in this thing, it just gets served back up to you again.
Just keep getting stuff. It's frustrating. Were you ever tempted to go down the doing video, speaking to camera, doing videos, saying, here at D8,
no,
we do this?
No, not with this face and voice. I mean, I hate the sound of my own voice when you hear it back. So,
Come on.
Apologies to your listeners and viewers for this, but no. I think, for me, if I'm putting stuff out there, it's just, here's what we've done. It's like, we've just done this thing, we've done that. And, on my own personal Instagram thing, because it's locked off, I don't mind putting stupid stuff on there or on the story or whatever, but it's only people that follow me that can see that, I don't mind them seeing it. But in terms of the personal branding thing, I think I'd rather just promote the work of the studio, because...
Yeah, focus on the work.
Yeah, it's a lot better than anything I would have to say.
Oh, come on. You're so self-deprecating. But it's very humbling, and it's, again, demonstrating the person that you are, because I've met you in person. I've been lucky to have a chat with you in person. And I remember that chat. You were very memorable and a very kind person. And I can see why you've been able to grow. Sorry, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but I can see how you've managed to grow a successful creative agency over so many years and kept going and kept, doing these amazing projects. Because it ultimately, again, it just comes back to the fact, if you're a good person, if you like people, if you know how to build and maintain healthy relationships with people, then you're just laughing all the way. And then all the rest of it doesn't matter if you do rubbish work. Well, that's another part of it. But what I mean.
I think you've got to deliver on the work, But I think if you can be, I think we always try and be fair with people, So, like, if somebody is, if a client needs something quickly or they're struggling for whatever reason, you always try and, help them and deliver for them and stuff like that. And that comes down to that, surround yourself with good people and treat them well, so people that we know. But at the same time, I think being fair with people as well as, you don't let people walk over the top of you either, so no. We are quite
good at saying no.
Yeah, we are quite good at saying no to certain things.
This episode is supported by the School of Communication Arts, the most awarded ad school on the planet. Their new SEA online portfolio course gives you everything you need to get into the creative industry: briefs, mentoring, community, and confidence. It's all remote, and you can get £500 off with code BOOM500. To show what's possible, we spoke to Gigi Rice, now a senior creative working across NYC and London, winner of the Gold Cannes Young Lions Award, and a playwright whose work has appeared at Edinburgh Fringe. We asked, what was special about the SEA community for you?
I think it's the first place where I ever felt not too much or too weird, which I feel is a kind of a classic feeling for a lot of creative people. Growing up being part of friendship groups and normal school structures, which the SEA is not. You belong, you have friends, but you always know that you're a bit different, a bit on the edge, a bit weird for everyone else. And I think what's special about the SEA community for me is I arrived and thought, oh my gosh, there's other people like me and I'm not mad. I'm actually, brilliant in this context and so are they. But it was such a relief to know that you're not a crazy person. You're actually just a really creative person. And that's never been in an environment that fits around you or teaches you how to be more like you. I think also the school prides itself on a spirit of generosity. And I've seen that in length of friendships from people I've met there, not just from the students, but the mentors themselves. I regularly kind of keep in touch with. If I need something, I reach out. And the ex-students, like I moved to New York, and an ex-student who I didn't know connected me with someone on Twitter who then became one of my best friends in New York. I think it's a very special place made for mad people who finally feel sane.
Huge thanks to Gigi for sharing her story. If you want to follow in her footsteps, visit SEA Online Portfolio at schoolcommunicationarts.com and use BOOM500 to save £500. I think the other key to success is I guess when you first started out, your intuition, your gut wasn't as strong as it perhaps is now. And it's a case of when you're a nice person, it's hard listening to the gut sometimes, isn't it? But you have to.
Yeah, I think when you start out, you're full of kind of, everything's new and shiny, and you're really just trying to get some work in the door and all of that sort of stuff. So you go after everything that's an opportunity, and you come at that with the best of intentions and 100%. And then I think over the years, sometimes you get used to, you'll understand when things are not quite sold as seen, and you can just see it coming. You just know this isn't right for us or whatever. And yeah, I think that's just experience. But I think experience is the one thing you don't actually realise you're gaining experience. Over the years, you're just it's what happens to you, and then there are points where you realise that the experience that you've gained is that's influencing the decision you're making. Like we'll talk about things and it'll be like, well, do you remember that? This is exactly the same as that. So, we could see you could see how that will end in advance. So let's not enter into it, sort of thing. But then consequently, you're like, that was great, and I could see this being the same as that. So it's just one of those things. And I do think I think it's tough for a lot of younger designers trying to get into the industry now. And I don't know if this is me just looking at things through sort of rose-tinted glasses, but when we set up, like everybody set up agencies, so you set up an agency. I hadn't heard of freelancers when we set up. I don't know if it was maybe more like a London thing. Certainly wasn't a big thing in Glasgow at the time, or Scotland as far as I know. And so that's what people did. People set up agencies, and graduates went to work in agencies, whereas now, because there's less and less people setting up agencies, and you've got more, there are more freelancers. I think that's great if you've got experience. You know what you're doing. You've kind of you've got a body of work and experience behind you. But if you're a graduate and there are less studios to go and work in, and you're having to start off your career as a freelancer, I think that must be incredibly difficult for people. Because it's kind of like going in as a junior and working with a senior team is like doing an apprenticeship. It's like you learn a lot just by being around those people and working with those people. Sometimes it might be what not to do. Hopefully it's good things to do. But you've got people there that you can ask. And I just think it must be incredibly difficult for, young people coming out and, being forced to kick things off on their own. How do you cost up a job for a start? You know what I mean? And you see all sorts of horror stories, on LinkedIn and things about people getting exploited and, all the rest of it. And it must be tough, It must be tough.
Yeah, you're kind of taking my memory back to 2009 when I started Creative Boom, and I'm remembering that the global economic crisis caused that. Lots of graduates coming out of university, there weren't any jobs available, similar to probably what's going to happen this summer, sadly. So Creative Boom came in and it was offering tips articles, because I was going through that process myself. I'd become a freelancer, I was growing an agency. And so I wanted to spread that, inside knowledge that doesn't really get shared that much. Why should people just be thrown in at the deep end and learn as they go along? It'd be nice to give them a bit of a lift and, hey, did you know you could do this? And hey, you could do that. And here we are nearly 16 years later doing exactly the same thing, and hopefully helping people out who are considering that route. But Adrian, what's quite interesting is I obviously talk to a lot of people in the industry, and in London especially, there's this talk of independent studios. And here, this is what happens when you've got so many different changes going on, whether it's the economy or politics, whatever's happening in the world. The independents are kicking up a right storm in London against the very established large agencies, if you know what I mean, because the demand is shifting to them. And this, if I remember correctly, the same thing happened back in 2009 because the brands realised that the big agencies were fucking expensive. So, but then you got all these talented independents. But I think this time the shift is that AI's come in. So all those independents are now operating at a much more efficient level because all their staff are way more efficient, but they themselves are also efficient because you can kick out proposals a lot quicker, I presume. I'm not putting you on the spot here. I'm just observing what's happening. So the bigger agencies are at a bit of a kind of, so they are now competition. They have less to say, well, if you go with them, then this will happen. And when I say independence, I'm not talking about tiny studios. I'm talking about you and Koto and all these other great studios. They're like rising up and getting these brilliant jobs, yourself included, because there's this perfect storm brewing. The economy's slumped. People are cutting budgets. Not that they pay you poorly, you know what I'm saying? And you're producing brilliant work at probably a faster pace than much larger teams.
Yeah, I mean, I've only, apart from the studio that I worked in before we started D8, I've only ever worked at that studio and D8, so I can only speak from the experience of that. But what I do know is, I know what it was like being a 3-person studio at D8, and I know what it's like being, I think we're about 80 people now, across 3 different locations. Well, 4, really.
4, where are those locations? Is Amsterdam?
So, Amsterdam. So the biggest is in Glasgow. That's about 65 people, I think, in Glasgow. And then Amsterdam is shortly going to be 10. And then we've got 4 people in Australia. And we've got one guy still in Hong Kong who's kind of helps manage projects and things like that for us.
Brilliant.
But most of the work in Hong Kong gets done in Australia now because it's on the same timeline, But so, I mean, it's one of these things where I think that you get. I don't think size determines quality of studio. I think quality determines quality of studio. So. I've had this conversation with, I don't know if you know Greg Anderson at Freytag Anderson before.
I do. So lovely man.
I remember on Twitter one night I was having this conversation with him and Christopher Doyle, the Australian guy.
Yes.
And, and they had started by saying, we're good because we're small and nimble. And I had kind of joined the conversation. I was like, you're not, you're good because you're good, right?
Yes.
So, and I think that across all different levels of studios, you will find people who are good at what they do. You will get good boutique studios and you will get some terrible boutique studios, and you will get good big studios and you'll get some terrible big studios as well. I think that, I like the idea of, that we're at this perfect size because, but I think what you kind of find is that some of the projects we do, you could not do as a 3-person studio, right? Some ongoing projects that we do, because you would spend all your time doing that project and you would not, it's ongoing.
You wouldn't survive.
Well, you wouldn't have any time to look for any other clients or do any other work. So you would just be, working on that project. And then if that came to an end, you're going to have to scrabble about looking for something else to do. I think that what we tend to find is that generally, within the studio, you will have teams of kind of 5-6 people working on different accounts. And, so if you've got a team of about 5 or 6 people, generally they can handle, most sizes of large-scale projects. You might want to pull in some additional support from time to time, but because we've got 80 people, we can handle lots of those types of projects at the one time. And what we then tend to do is we split designers will work across, different clients regularly. So if you work on a media account like BBC or Spotify or something like that, you might also work on, I don't know, a drinks brand or, something in the financial sector or something like that, So that kind of keeps it interesting for them.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I would like to think that we are big enough to deliver, but we're, small enough that we know everything that's going on within the studio at each point of each project, and we can check in, to find out exactly what's going on and how jobs are running and all that sort of stuff. We operate quite a flat structure, so there aren't like layers of hierarchy that you have to go through. It's just, somebody wants to talk to you, they can talk to you there and then, sort of thing. And yeah, I think it kind of works for us. But I think we're at a good size, but we never really kind of set out to be any specific size. It was always just, we want to do good work, and then, because we're quite good at hanging on to clients, because, you're reliable and you do good work for them, if you then get another client off the back of that, you have to scale up to keep that client happy and service the other account, and so on and so on and so on. So that's kind of the way that it's gone. And I think also, setting up in that time where you set up agencies. So, that's just what you did. So it was always in our mind that we would take people on. We would bring people in to work with us rather than staying small and outsourcing things.
It's the constant worry of losing those clients, because you know what that means. It means redundancies, but you will be very wise to the fact that you never want to give your clients any room for where's D8, where are they, what are they doing for us? What value are they bringing? You never want to give them the second. That was what I was always taught when I worked for a PR agency. Never give them a second to think, where's Katie? Why isn't she looking after our account? You get there and you send that email before they've even had a chance to think, what are they doing? I'm paying them on a retainer. And that's kind of what I do with our clients at Creative Boom now. It works. They come back. They like us.
Yeah, I mean, totally, 100%. And like I say, we've got great, account directors, account managers, and then designers working on the accounts, whether it's designers or the digital team or whoever. And like I say, with the flat structure, we have, designers speaking directly with the clients. We don't have,
great.
Kind of walls of account management teams and things like that. But I think you do... there are points where no matter how well you service an account, that relationship will come to an end at some point. That's the nature of it.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, sometimes that'll happen if you get a new, a new kind of marketing team come into an account, or, a new marketing person, and they've got different ideas, about how they want to do things. And we've lost clients over the years, usually on quite good terms, that you can't run for
idiots. What were they thinking?
That doesn't happen. But I think that's where the kind of cycle of you always need to keep moving, and trying to bring in new work when new work, keep building and not standing still. When we set up, we had two big clients. We had Global Video, like I mentioned, and we had there was a company in Glasgow who I'm not going to mention by name. But they were like a chain of like jeans shops, like denim shops, that sort of stuff. Fashion, but kind of big, kind of high street shops. And we lost both of them within a week. We were just happily working away. We lost both of them within a week, just because I think they both, there was like three of us at the time, and I think they both decided to work with larger agencies who would do like their TV, their radio, their in-store point of sale, all of that stuff. And so, we had to scrabble about and find, new clients and more work to do and all the rest of it. And I think that that kind of taught us, it taught us a lesson at that point. You can't stay still. You have to keep moving. You can't take things for granted. You have to keep pushing forward all the time. So that's kind of how it's been.
I love it. And now, with the success of D8 under your belt, you are going to be doing something soon. I don't know if we can talk about it, but you're going to be launching.
Yeah.
You're diversifying, Adrian.
Yep, once again.
What are you doing? Tell us.
So we're on the verge of starting a type foundry, and it's going to be called ABCD8.
Very clever. I like that. Who came up with that?
It was Stephen Bonner, who is one of our creative directors, and he's going to be one of the partners in ABCD8. So it was a great name. As soon as he said it, I think we were all like, yeah, that's perfect. And everybody we've said it to has had a kind of similar reaction, you know. So, it's cool. So more recently, we've been cutting bespoke typefaces for clients. So what we've found is that there are a number of big type foundries that have kind of changed the model of how they want to license typefaces. So, it used to be that it was the designer in the studio that had to own the typeface, and then the client didn't always have to, own the typeface depending on whether they were using it or not. They want to shift the ownership model, so that it's the client that pays for the typeface, the license of the typeface, and they want to do that on a yearly basis, depending on the usage. So if you're a bigger client, you'll pay more for the use of your typeface. And if you go into kind of global point of sale or TV, all that sort of stuff,
it can get so expensive.
Yeah, it can really seriously start to ramp up. So where we're at is we have been cutting typefaces. We've been designing and creating typefaces for brands, and just charging effectively a one-off fee for them. Now obviously that's all based on, the amount of hours that go into it, size and scale of the organisation, how it's going to be used. But once that fee is calculated and being paid for, then they own the typeface outright, sort of thing. So that's kind of, and it came about because we were getting asked to do more and more of it. So we've just done NPO, who are the Dutch equivalent of the BBC.
Yes.
So we've just done their typeface, which is the biggest typeface project that we've done to date. It's fantastic, For me, a wee guy from Glasgow, and we've got a studio that's cut a typeface that's, it's on Dutch television, and it's it appears in media all over the place over there. So for us, that's great. And then there's a number of drinks brands, so we are doing about 7 drinks brands at the moment, and we're doing the charities typeface, and we've got another client that we're creating for as well, and another number of other people that we're talking to. But I mean, it's just really, it's been cool, and we enjoy doing it, and it seems like a nice way to progress, and it's great work. And I think one of the things that I find quite interesting about it as well is that the reason that we're getting asked to do this is because people are looking for ownable, trademarkable, bespoke assets. But the other way of looking at that is that's something that completely sits out with the remit of AI.
Yeah. You've got to own your own IP, haven't you?
Exactly. So, AI at the moment, there's obviously all sorts of conversations about it, and there's, a lot of hysteria and panic and things like that. But, at the moment, if you take out all of the noise on LinkedIn, which is, I would say 90% of that's generated by people that were NFT experts before they became AI experts. And before that, they were crypto experts, and it's just people trying to jump on, from one bandwagon on
the gold rush. It's the Wild West.
Totally. And I think if you take that out of it, at the moment, we're just talking about software. It's software that we can use, You see all these companies advertising, it's like, our AI this, and we've got AI agents and AI that. And effectively, it's just people using ChatGPT or something, Like, if ChatGPT costs $540 million to build, and it costs like $700,000 a day to run, how can all these companies possibly have their own powerful AI systems? I think a lot of it is just noise. I think a lot of AI is really useful for what we do, for concept and stuff like that. But we are working with brands, and a lot of those brands are household names. If I told you who they are, you know exactly who I was talking about. And they want to own their own IP. So in order to do that, it cannot be AI generated assets.
Yeah, saving grace, isn't it, for the industry?
At the moment, absolutely. I mean, we've had to sign contracts when we're creating identity work, assets, whether it's logos, or whatever it is that we're handing over that says no AI has been created in the final assets that are supplied. So commonly we'll use stuff for concepting because you can create visuals, show clients stuff quicker. But once the work starts, you're back into, working with photographers, working with illustrators, working with typographers, all of that sort of stuff, working with film people. So, obviously we're at the start of it, so it'll be interesting to see how it changes. But at the moment, I'm pretty relaxed about the whole thing, I think.
Adrian, if this is you pretty relaxed, I dare not think about what you're like when you're on holiday, when you're really relaxed. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, this has been a fascinating conversation, and I really feel like we could dive into so much more. But for now, Adrian Carroll, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A huge thank you to our guest, Adrian Carroll, founder of D8, a creative studio that's been without a slogan since 1999 and thriving ever since. What really stayed with me from today's chat is how staying open to change, to people, to the unexpected is often the real secret to success. Adrian's story is a reminder that these things aren't just about clinging to the past, but embracing what's next with curiosity and humility. Make sure you tune in again on Thursday for The Spark, our bonus episode with Adrian, where we take a look at the lighter side of things with a few quick-fire questions, reflections, and probably some good laughs too. And don't forget, if you want to subscribe, you can do so at creativeboom.com/podcast or find us wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on Thursday. Big thanks to the School of Communication Arts for sponsoring this season of the Creative Boom podcast. Don't forget, their brand new SCA online portfolio course is now live. It's the perfect way to break into the creative industries from wherever you are. Real briefs, top mentors, one incredible opportunity. Visit schoolcommunicationarts.com to find out more. And to enjoy £500 off the price of the course, use our special code BOOM500 at checkout.